Greetings, citizens. Hey you beautiful creepy human being you. Welcome to my channel and welcome to today's morbid makeup video. I'm so happy we could meet like this. I'm so happy that somehow in all of this craziness today, you and I were able to find each other on this wild planet that we call home. My name is Brittany or Bratterstein, whichever you prefer, and today we're going to be discussing the murder of 31-year-old Nannette Krenzel. This was a mother of two girls who was brutally, savagely murdered, and her body found in the killing fields of Wisconsin on Mother's Day. But before we get started, if you have not yet had the pleasure, please make sure to join the Brat Pack by subscribing and ringing that bell. I put out a new video every single week, and I would love to hang out with you. Yes, you specifically, you, but I can only do that if you join the Brat Pack and become one of us. One of us, one of us. One of us. And you can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you want. They're both Bratterstein, but no pressure. So guess what, guys? Today, I have a new sponsor. Today's video is sponsored, and it's sponsored by a new sponsor that I have wanted to work with for a while now because one, I love them so much. And two, I have been using their products on my channel. I've been featuring their products on my channel for months, maybe more. I know that the first product I bought from them was a couple of years ago for Christmas, and I've been featuring them here and there this whole time. And I've actually reached out to them a couple of times wanting to work with them, but they hadn't gotten back to me. Now they finally did. We're finally working together, and I'm so excited, and I think you will be too, because today's sponsor is Ana Luisa Jewelry. Ana Luisa Jewelry is a jewelry brand, that creates high quality pieces of jewelry at an affordable price. Like honestly, for how nice their items are, I'm kind of surprised that I can afford them. Let's be honest. I mean, I'm a little bit of a lowbrow lady, but these are so nice and they're at the right price. And somehow, with products this nice, at this price, they're also able to keep their impact on the planet in mind by remaining carbon neutral. I don't know how they do it. Ana Luisa Jewelry is employed by a bunch of wizards. I mean, that's literally the only explanation I have. And the best part, dude, if I haven't already told you the best part, I mean, I guess it's subjective what you think the best part is, but one of the best parts to me is that their jewelry is so pretty, dude. And they have like a variety of different styles, which is something that I love. So they have things that are very pretty and very classy, very simple if you're like a classy, sophisticated human being, but they also have pieces that are a little bit more edgy and a little bit more like cool. You know what I mean? If that's more your vibe. And when I said that you've already seen me wear their pieces on my channel, or on my Instagram over the years, let me just show you. Here's my little plate, my little jewelry plate, okay? These that I've worn 4 years, Ana Luisa Jewelry. These little snakes are the first pair that I ever bought from them because I was immediately like blown away when I saw how absolutely adorable these were. Ana Luisa Jewelry. These little cuties, probably one of my most worn pair besides the hoops, Ana Luisa Jewelry. And these little safety pins, I actually don't know if I've worn these on camera. I got my second holes put in my ear specifically so I could wear these safety pins because like I got some chunky earlobes and these are a little small for that, but for the second hole, perfect. And again, Ana Luisa Jewelry, and I've worn all of these for years. Now today, I have four new earrings, new sets of earrings to share with you. And oh my God, they're all so cute. I don't know which one's my favorite. I don't know which one I'm gonna wear for today's video, but I can't wait to show you. Let me just show you. So the first pair I got, are you ready for this? Oh my God, it is these Hannah liquid greens. And I am obsessed. No, you don't understand. I'm obsessed. Let's be real. These are probably gonna be the ones that I wear today because they're stunning, but I think I'm gonna stack them with this other pair. Oh my God, just wait 1 minute. Okay, so these on the lower hole, right? And then these are the rock small on my second hole. Oh my God, I love these earrings. These are ones that I feel, they're just so like classic and classy and simple, and they're perfectly sized to like be able to wear to anything because they're not gonna be too much, which is sometimes the case when you do hoops. I mean, for some people, not for me, I really like hoops, but these are just like really dainty and really classic. And I feel like out of all the ones that I have, these are gonna be like probably the fan favorite because I feel like anyone could wear these and not feel like it was too much. You know what I mean? Like, let me just show you what they look like together because I am obsessed. Bro, Look at how stinking cute these look together. Can you even deal with it? I did not know I was gonna love stacking these two together so much. I have another pair of like these little studs that I'm gonna show you in a second that I thought I would prefer, but oh my God. They're just so, it's a little bit of class and a little bit of sass, and I'm here for it because that's obviously me as a person. Oh, I love it. Okay, let me show you the other two, but I'm gonna wear these today because I wanna do something green with my makeup, I think, because the muses are taking me. The Ana Luisa muses are taking me. Oh my God, can we just take a moment for these freaking crescent opals and these mini Hana pastel blues? These are like one of my absolute favorites. As soon as I saw this color on the website, I was like, I want to wear those when I give birth to my son. They're just so cute and I love them stacked together. I like to put the blue in the back. I don't know what it is. Normally I would put the dangle in the front, but something about this combo, having the little moon there and then this in the back, oh, I just feel like it's so cute. And I feel like these stack together so well because like the opal and then the blue, I don't know. Which combo do you prefer? Do you prefer this combo or the first combo? Because I love them both. But I am gonna wear the liquid greens today with the Roxas, but isn't that so cute? Wizards. So guess what? If things didn't already sound too good to be true, which I know they do sound too good to be true, but they're not, it is true. Ana Luisa Jewelry is also offering a really rad sale with Mother's Day right around the corner, where if you buy one piece, you can get the second piece of equal or lesser value for 40% off. And that's a really good deal because like high key, low key, that's one piece for you and one piece for your mom. So I'm just saying. So as most of you know, I am currently pregnante. I am with child. I am going to be a mom. I'm actually 9 months this week. I am 36 and a half weeks when I'm filming this. Oh my God, I'm going to be somebody's mother. And in just the nick of time. And since I'm going to be giving birth so close to Mother's Day, I told my husband that I wanted earrings from Ana Luisa Jewelry as a Mother's Day gift. I actually told him this. He might not believe me, but it is the truth. I actually told him this like a while back, way before Ana Luisa reached out to me to work together. And I told him that I wanted these very specific earrings. And now that the sale is about to be on, you better believe he is about to be on. They have these perfect little single initial studs, like with, you know, an initial, like a letter, right? And because both my husband and my son's name, my son that's going to be born very soon, both of their names start with a C, I was telling him that for Mother's Day, it would be super, super cute if he was to get me a little C to wear in my second hole. So anytime I wanted to wear my danglies, I could stack the little C with it. Literally, I love stacking earrings, and then to be able to stack my like really cute little danglies with the initial of the loves of my life, forget about it. But anyways, guys, if all of that sounds as good to you as it does to me, make sure to click the link down in my description box. That lets Ana Luisa know that I'm the one who sent you, and take advantage of their sale where if you buy one piece, you get the second piece for 40% off today, and make your mama's day, and maybe high-key, low-key, your day too. I'm just saying. And now that I am done spreading the good word of Ana Luisa Jewelry, we can get into this video. Now, this is going to be a video on a case that, like many that I cover, I had never heard of before I started looking into it for this video. And once I started looking into it and I started reading all the details, I was truly blown away. One, because of just the details of this case. It's so just... it's a rough one. And two, because there is virtually no coverage on this case across any of the platforms that I frequent. Podcasts, YouTube, nothing. It's just not really there. And it's crazy because I feel like this is the type of case that you definitely should discuss because it really is in a lot of ways a cautionary tale for women. Now, if you're like, wait a minute, that name Nannette Krenzel sounds familiar to me, and when I search it, a lot of hits come up. That's because there was another woman. Her name is Nannette Krenzel, who got a lot of publicity on her case because she died in a suspicious house fire while her husband is the local fire chief. But that is not the case we're discussing today. We're going to be discussing Nannette Krenzel from Chicago. Basically, for the teeniest, tiniest of synopsis, something to just kind of wet your whistle with, 31-year-old Nannette Krenzel had gone out for a night of drinking where she met someone or someones and trusted them and left with them, never to come home again. So today I'm going to tell you that whole story, and while I do, I'm going to be putting on a full face of makeup, hence the makeup in morbid makeup. If that's not really your thing, that's cool. Thanks for hanging out this long. I hope you find a channel, good luck, that covers this case in a way that you prefer. But if you're kind of on the fence, not sure how you feel, maybe stick around. You could be surprised by how much you like me. Now with all of that said, let me stop talking about it and start being about it. Come, gather around and let me tell you the story of the murder of 31-year-old Nannette Krenzel. Okay, to get started, we're going to jump into our handy dandy time machine and we're going to head to the morning of Mother's Day, 1995. A couple of men had been out driving down a highway in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, putting up signs for their business. You know, it's early morning and they're putting up signs to bring customers to their business, when one of the passengers notices a woman, the body of a woman laying just off the side of the road. It's about 10 to 15 feet off of the main 2-lane highway, and she's just laying in the grass, completely nude, face up. The area where this woman's body was laying was near the Illinois and Wisconsin border in a field that is lovingly referred to as the killing fields, and this woman had been brutalized. She had been beaten, she had been stabbed multiple times, and her throat was cut so severely that she was nearly decapitated. So police were obviously called, right? And once they got to the scene and they had examined it and everything, they realized that they had no idea who this woman was. And they needed to try to figure out who she was so that they could properly investigate her murder. And they did. They went about this in the weirdest way to me. They had a press conference. And during this press conference and subsequently, they released a photo of this woman to the media to be run in the newspaper. And it was a photo of her deceased. I don't know why this is so weird to me, but it is. It was literally just like a photo of her beaten and swollen face. And they put this in the newspaper, and I understand that they needed to figure out who she was. And I guess this is like the way that they thought they would have the most success, but something about it is just so weird to me. To have all these people in the world just seeing this poor woman in like the worst condition she's ever been in her life. I can't imagine how she would feel about that, how her family would feel about that. I couldn't find how they felt about it, but this is what they did, okay? And this didn't even end up being what helped them identify her, which is another reason I think it bothers me, because they ended up taking her fingerprints and running them through APHIS and got a hit because she had previously been arrested for something. I didn't see what it was, but I don't think it was anything serious. So she had a prior conviction, and this is how they were able to learn her name. And that's how they learned that she was a 31-year-old mother of 2 daughters named Nannette Krenzel. So at the time that she was killed, Nannette's 2 daughters lived with their father, and they would go and stay with Nannette on the weekends. So this was going to be a weekend, and her 2 daughters were expecting her to pick them up for a Mother's Day celebration. You know, they were going to get together, they were going to celebrate Mother's Day with their mama. So they waited for her with their flowers and their gifts, just waiting for her to show up. And of course, she never did. And her daughter has said that because of this and what happened to her mother, to this day, she still doesn't celebrate Mother's Day, and she just wants that day to go away. I can't imagine these 2 little girls just like waiting there with their flowers and their gifts, just waiting for their mom to pick them up, expecting to have this like fun time with her, probably looking forward to it, and her never showing up, and then finding out that the reason she didn't show up is because she was murdered and fucking dead in this field. It just makes me insane to think about. It's so sad. I can absolutely see why they wouldn't want to celebrate Mother's Day anymore. Now, what happened? What happened the night before that would lead to this woman, this young mother, being murdered in such a brutal way? So Nannette had a boyfriend, and this was a guy named Jacob, and the 2 lived together. And the night before she was killed, her and Jacob had met at a bar that they frequented. This was called the Fuller's Tavern, and it was on Chicago's North Side. And they had just met up to hang out, have a drink, watch some sports. On this night, it was the NBA playoffs, so people were really excited to get rowdy, to get wild, to drink, to yell over each other, you know, bar things. So Jacob had been at this bar with a couple of his family members. He was there with his brother Joseph, his brother Joseph's girlfriend, and the 2's father. And that's when Nannette showed up at about 9:30 that night. And apparently Jacob didn't know that Nannette was going to be coming. Like, that wasn't part of the plan. And once she got there, the two got into a pretty serious fight. Now, what exactly the fight was about, I'm not sure. You know, alcohol can definitely make people a little more rowdy, a little louder than generally they would be. Generally they would be. But there was also, did you hear it? It sounded like I was wheezing. But there was also word on the street that Nannette thought Jacob was cheating on her and that she intended to show up and confront him about this. Either way, not sure exactly what they fought about, but the fight got loud and the fight ended up spilling out into the street, got more and more intense, and ended with the two of them seemingly breaking off their relationship. Nannette being like, deuces then, bro, I'm out. Jacob getting in his vehicle and leaving, and Nannette walking down a dark alley by herself, never to be seen again. When Nannette did not show back up at the couple's apartment by the following morning, this is when Jacob started to worry a little bit. Like, did they break up? Yes, technically. But they had also been together years and lived together, so it wouldn't really make sense for her to just completely fall off the map. So when he didn't hear from her, he started to get a little bit worried, and he started to call her friends, her family, trying to see if anyone had seen her or had heard from her, but nobody had. So he gave it a little more time. He's like, you know what, maybe she needs some time to cool off. Maybe she's with somebody and they're just not telling me. Let me just give her a little more time to herself. But as the days passed and he heard nothing, he realized, like, this is probably the point where I should contact somebody. And on the 15th of that month, he decided it was time to inform the police that she was missing. It was the next day where Jacob was contacted to be told that a body of a woman had been discovered about an hour away in the neighboring state of Wisconsin in a place called Pleasant Prairie. So Jacob then got in his car and he made the drive over, and once he got there, he positively identified the body found in the killing fields to be that of Nannette Krenzel. And this place was called the killing fields because at the time it was a large open space, fields if you will, off the main highway, and they had already found 4 bodies just thrown into this field in a short period of time. They weren't connected, but it just seemed to be a place where people were often dumping bodies. It's so gross to think of. Like, how do you all come up with the same idea? I don't know, but that's why they were calling it the killing fields. Right away, investigators were not a fan of Jacob. They didn't like how he acted when he identified the body. They thought that he was a little bit sketch. They didn't like the fact that the night that she was murdered, he had had a fight with her in public. And they'd given him a polygraph test and he had failed pretty miserably. The one of the officers saying he had failed worse than anyone they had ever seen take a polygraph ever. And he was just like super weird about the whole thing in general. He was just like super unemotional about the whole murder, considering this was a woman he had been dating for years and had been living with. He just seemed to be completely unaffected by the fact that she was killed. And this guy even, okay, after learning that she had been murdered, almost like right after, he went back to their apartment and threw a bunch of her stuff in the trash. Yeah, just in the trash. And her family ended up finding out about this and they went and like fished her items out of his trash can. That's pretty messed up, no? Like, to do to somebody you had just had a relationship with that was just murdered? I don't know. It just seems really, really sketchy. And on top of that, apparently Nannette had a life insurance policy and Jacob started trying to collect on this, like, pretty soon after she was killed also. So it just kind of rubbed everyone, investigators, her family, everyone the wrong way. But when police searched their apartment to see if there was any sign of a struggle, anything, it was totally fine. It didn't look like there had been a cleanup. It didn't look like anything had happened there. So they were like, well, what the hell? Jacob wasn't the only person that police were looking at, though. They actually also suspected Jacob's brother because, well, first off, did not like Nannette. He did not think that Nannette and his brother should have been together, and he was pretty, like, vocal about it. He wasn't quiet about his feelings towards Nannette. On top of that, somebody, after she was killed, called police and gave his name as a possible suspect. They were saying that he, after Nannette was killed, was talking super weird about her and about the murder, and he seemed to have details that he shouldn't have had about, like, injuries that were on her body that were consistent with injuries she actually had. And this was details that the cops hadn't released yet. They hadn't even told the family yet. So they were like, how would this guy know that? On top of that, He did have a prior domestic violence charge on his record. So they're like, oh, so you can be violent, can you? And last, it wasn't Jacob who was the last person to see his girlfriend alive that night. It turns out it was actually his brother. So after Nannette and Jacob had gotten in their fight and he had taken off in his van, before she went and walked down that alley and disappeared forever, she had actually hung back and talked for a while. It was brief, he says, but that he spoke to her and then he's the one who watched her walk down the alley, never to be seen alive again. So he hates her. He has details on the murder that he should not have. He has a domestic violence charge on his record, and he's the last person to see her alive. I wonder why police are looking at him. So, even though the murder didn't have a, quote, domestic violence feel to it, whatever that means, and even though there was no evidence that actually linked either brother to the murder, it was just like them being sketchy and police suspecting them, they did, like investigators working on the case, did choose to keep both brothers under surveillance, but they then did decide that since there was no real evidence, they needed to move on and pursue other leads, which is good. That they didn't have tunnel vision, but they did at least like keep watching them because they're like, I don't have proof, but you're fucking weird, so I'm going to keep watching you, but I'm also going to look at other people because I need to do my job. So when I say that her murder didn't have a domestic violence feel, I think it was just due to the pure brutality and like intenseness of what was done to her. It was hard for them to believe that somebody who had ever known her or loved her could do to her what was done to her. Nannette had been just brutalized, dude. She had been beaten. She had a broken nose. And as I said, her throat had been cut so deep that she was nearly decapitated. But this wasn't just like a slash. The person had stabbed her over and over in the neck multiple times, severing her airway. And she had been stabbed over 40 times, dude. The police described her as, quote, carved. One of the stabs was to her right eye, her lung, and her liver. And according to the medical examiner, she could have lived with these injuries for 5 or 6 minutes. Ugh, can you even imagine that type of pain? Fortunately, though, the medical examiner did say that most of these wounds, like of these 40 stab wounds, were done after death. So I guess that's a silver lining that she probably didn't feel all of that, because I can't even imagine. But because of how intense this murder was, that's why they thought that this probably wasn't somebody who knew or loved her at some point, because the brutality of it was just far too severe, was essentially their point. So it showed great rage, but it didn't seem to be personal. An investigator working on Nannette's case said that whoever had killed her wanted to, quote, inflict great punishment on her. And when Nannette had her funeral, she had to have a closed casket due to the condition of her body. So as I said, police were pursuing other leads, and in doing so, they did speak to all of Nannette's neighbors. And in speaking to her neighbors, they did learn that recently Nannette had kind of a run-in, an altercation with a couple of gang members near her house. I guess like they had been sitting on her car, like on the roof of her car or on the hood of her car, just, you know, on her shit. And she had gone out and she had gotten in a fight with them and confronted them. Okay, and her neighbor had seen this, so police thought for a minute maybe this had been retaliation, even though this didn't really seem to be the case, because generally speaking, this isn't the way gang members murder women so intensely. And usually if they did, they would be bragging about what they did, and there was no word on the street whatsoever that anybody had done this. So this didn't really pan out. And when that didn't pan out and police found nothing new on Jacob, the case went cold. The case stalled for months. After 7 months, they finally got their next big lead that ended up being exactly what they need. And this is when a woman named Sharon called the Chicago police and gave them some very interesting information. So Sharon told police that she had recently gotten a call from her adult daughter named Donna, and that Donna had told her mother that she and her husband, 25-year-old Michael Lee, had recently fled from their home and ran to a new state because Michael had killed a woman from Chicago in a fit of rage. And police were like, huh, that's incredibly interesting information. And she said that her daughter sounded weird, that her daughter sounded scared, that her daughter thought that this man, Michael Lee, was going to flip on her and kill her in a fit of rage, just like he had done this other woman. And when police asked her, like, well, did your daughter say who this woman was or what she looked like, anything like that? Sharon told police, yes, my daughter said that she was a petite woman with dark hair and green eyes. And this was exactly the description of Nannette Krenzel. Go Sharon. Am I right? Like, she could have said nothing to protect her daughter. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure, well, she thought she was protecting her daughter by calling. Either way, go you go, Sharon. Good for you, Glenn Coco, and none for Gretchen Wiener's bye. Sharon's just, she's people that we need. You know what I mean? We need people who are going to actually get information and then call police. Because there's always somebody who knows something, but oftentimes they don't call. So good for Sharon. So with this information from Sharon, police felt that they had a pretty good lead. Though she hadn't given Nannette's name specifically, it all seemed to add up with the description and the time that they had fled. It just seemed like this was a pretty good lead. So though the couple had fled, they had actually fled to the state of Arkansas. Police wanted to search the apartment that they had been living in at the time that Nannette was murdered, because when Nannette's body had been found in that field, there was a pretty big absence of blood. It appeared that she had been killed elsewhere. There was no sign of a struggle there. It was just like drag marks of somebody who had pulled her from a car and left her in the field. So they knew based on that she had been killed somewhere else. They were like, oh, maybe she was killed in this couple's apartment. So they head to the apartment that Michael Lee and Donna Lee had previously lived in. And though it had been cleaned and re-rented, they still wanted to search it. And when they did, and they pulled up the carpet in the apartment, they found what appeared to be bloodstains on the floor of the apartment. So they took this carpet, they sent it in for testing, and it later did come back to be the blood of Nannette Krenzel. So police, was that an actual snap? I don't know how to snap. No, it wasn't. They headed to Arkansas. Y'all are in trouble now. When police get to Arkansas, they first confront Donna. She is alone at the couple's new home. And when they confront her initially, she actually takes the blame for the whole murder. She's like, yeah, it was me. I did everything. But then once she gets taken to the station by police and they question her further, she changes her tune and she says that it was actually her husband, Michael, who was the aggressor. They search the couple's apartment, and inside the apartment they find a folding knife that belonged to Michael that was later determined to be the murder weapon. And they end up finding jewelry that Nannette always wore inside a purse in the couple's apartment. So police then headed to Walmart because this is where Michael worked as a mechanic. And they went and they were like, hey, bro, we're here to get you because you murdered that girl, you know. That woman back in Chicago. We know that you killed her. So they take him in. And initially he does ask for an attorney, right? He's like, I would like an attorney because I didn't do this, blah, 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 blah. And after a little bit of time, he actually goes back to police and he's like, you know what? Never mind. I don't need an attorney. I'm like really wiping my face like this. Don't do what I do. Anyways, he then tells police like, okay, I don't need an attorney anymore. I'll talk to you. And they're like, okay, like, but why? Why do you now want to talk to us considering you just lawyered up and like you have the right to do that? So why do you now want to talk to us? And he was like, well, it's because my wife is innocent. She didn't do anything. And I want to make sure to get the truth out there so that she doesn't get in trouble for something that I did. So Michael told police everything. He told police that he and his wife Donna had met Nannette the night of May 12th at a bar. And that when the trio met, they kind of hit it off. And when they were going to leave the bar, they decided that they were going to leave together to keep hanging out. So they stopped on the way home, they grabbed a 6-pack and they headed to the apartment of the Lees. And once there, Donna got kind of jealous because Nannette was hitting on Michael. So she went to bed because she was like, you know what, I'm not going to watch this happen, which I don't know what she thought. I don't know. So she went to bed. He says that after his wife went to bed, he started then hitting on Nannette back and started trying to touch her and trying to kiss her, and that she was not having any of it. And in response to her turning him down, he snapped and attacked her. He says that the killing was totally unprovoked and that she didn't do anything, that he was just drunk and he was a very, very mean and violent drunk, and snapped and went into a rage. Michael says at this point his wife, Donna, who had been in the bedroom, came out because she heard the sounds of Michael attacking Nannette, and that when she walked out, she found him standing over Nannette's body with a baseball bat because he had beat this woman with a baseball bat. He says he then pulled out his folding knife and stabbed Nannette the 40 times before he and Donna took Nannette's body, rolled her body up in either a carpet or a comforter, depending on which reporting you see both of those things. They then drove her out to the killing fields and dumped her. Obviously, in response to this, Michael Lee was arrested for the first-degree murder of Nannette Krenzel. So Donna did not want to testify against her husband, but she was subpoenaed to do so, so she didn't really have much of a choice. So she did just that. And her testimony did help the prosecution when it came to convicting her husband. She talked during her testimony about Michael, and her testimony let people know that he was a violent guy. During her testimony, she talked about a time that he had hit her over the head with the same baseball bat. I believe it was the same baseball bat, a baseball bat. She did admit that it was during a fight and she had pulled the bat on him first, but that he had hit her over the head with it. And she said during the same fight, Michael had also broken a couple of her father's ribs and punctured one of his lungs. I guess like when the fight happened, her dad found out that he had hit her with a baseball bat, so he was like, hold my beer, I gotta go defend my daughter's honor. And in response to trying to defend himself, is what she said, he ended up breaking to her father's ribs and puncturing his lung. So she tried to make it seem like, yeah, he did these things, he hurt us, but like, we started it and it was an accident kind of thing. She also testified to the court that on the night of Nannette's murder, her and Michael were actually separated because of the whole fight, because of the whole bat incident, I'm pretty sure. If it wasn't that incident, it was another fight. Like they were separated at the time. Okay, is the point. And Donna had been living with her brother, but Michael had called her and had wanted to hang out, had wanted to get together, had wanted to work on things. And so the two of them had gone out together that night to hang out, to party, to drink, to kind of reconcile their differences. And that's the night that this whole thing happened with Nannette. And she also went more into detail on what had happened with Nannette that night. So Donna tells the court that that night, her and Michael had gone out to a bar that was primarily a gay bar, and that they had gone out with the plan to pick up another woman for the two of them to have an evening with, okay? So she says that they go to this bar, and that it's at this bar that they meet Nannette. They had got there at about 10:30 that night, and Nannette had gotten there after. So this falls in line with her like leaving the initial bar that she was at with Jacob and ending up at this other bar. So Donna says that Nannette walked in. Jack, please don't bark. So Donna says that Nannette comes in and that she already seems drunk when she gets there, and that she sits down next to Michael and starts striking up a conversation. They kind of chat back and forth. She bums a cigarette or two, and they're like, okay, maybe this is going to be the girl that we're going to hang out with tonight. So when they decided that they were going to leave the bar, they asked Nannette if she would like to join them, and she said yes. Donna says the whole reason that they asked Nannette to join them is because she was really drunk and they wanted to make sure she was safe. But considering they were going out looking for another lady, I don't really believe that that's the case, but that's what she said. I don't know. But anyway, they leave this bar, and I guess they go to another bar for a short period of time, but they're only there a couple of minutes before they leave. And it's once leaving this bar that Nannette tells them that she wants to go back to the initial bar that she had been at with Jacob. She wanted to go back and talk to Jacob. But they convinced her not to. They convinced her to stay and hang out with them. And after a little bit of coaxing, even though she was like, listen, I would like to go back there. I'll even walk. Like, you don't even have to drive me. Just let me out. I'll walk. And they were like, no, please. Like, stay, hang out with us. They convinced her to stay. They went, they picked up some drinks. They picked up that 6-pack and they headed back to their apartment. So frustrating because she like wanted to go, but they convinced her not to. And then fucking this happened, you know? Once back at the apartment, Donna says that Nannette started to hit on Michael. So she confirmed what he had said happened and that she was over it. She was annoyed. She was tired. So she told Nannette before she went to bed just to keep it down because she was being kind of loud. And then she went to lay down in the room that was normally occupied by her children. Fortunately, her kids were not home that night, so she lays in there. She says the next thing she knows, she hears some sounds and she comes out, and this is where she finds her husband, Michael, standing over a naked Nannette. She was laying nude on a mattress on the ground with blood and wounds to her face and her head. And she said that she saw Michael hit Nannette with the baseball bat. She then says that she saw Michael start stabbing Nannette in the throat and that she heard a gurgling sound. She says at that point that she went over and that both her and Michael held a pillow over Nannette's face until the noises and the movement stopped. And she says at this point, both her and Michael began stabbing Nannette all over her body. Donna says that Michael put the knife in her hands and then he put his hands on top of her hands and they started to cut Nannette's breasts. And when they did, he said to her, and I quote, "Is this hurting you? Does this hurt?" Donna also says that she's pretty sure that at some point she punched Nannette in the face. So I don't understand why Donna wasn't charged as well, because spoiler alert, she wasn't. And apparently she wasn't offered immunity or anything. So there's no real reason why this woman wasn't also charged, considering it sounds like she was a pretty active participant in the murder. But anyway, she wasn't. And she says that after the deed was done, they then wrapped her body, Nannette's body, in either a comforter or a carpet. They loaded her in the car. They drove her to Wisconsin and they threw her on the side of the road like a piece of fucking trash. It makes me so mad. She says once they got home, the couple made some coffee and then Donna fell asleep on the couch because she had to sleep off a headache that she had. And Michael proceeded to clean the apartment to get rid of any evidence that a crime had been committed there. So this seems like it should be easy, right? Like they have a confession. They have a witness who can corroborate basically the entire confession. So like easy peasy, put him in jail, slam the door, the end. No. Apparently Michael's confession got completely thrown out, and therefore the prosecutor wasn't even able to mention to the jury that he had confessed. So apparently what happened is when Michael had initially said he wanted an attorney, the one of the cops there was like, okay, yeah, that's your right, but just keep in mind that it's also your right to totally change your mind. Decide you don't want to, that's a bit rude. The officer also said like, cool, that's your right, but it's also your right to totally change your mind, to decide you don't want an attorney and to tell us anything you want. And apparently that's considered coercion. And because it was coerced, the confession was thrown out because of the fruit of the poisonous tree, my dude. So since they didn't have his confession anymore, the defense tried to say that it wasn't Michael at all who did this. It was actually Donna. They admitted that Michael had gone out with Donna that night, that he had picked up Nannette with Donna, that he had brought her back to the house, that they had partied, that they had drank, and that he had even helped dispose of the body after the fact, but he was not the one who killed her. That was Donna. Donna had killed Nannette in a fit of jealous rage because she lost it when she saw Nannette flirting with Michael. Donna denied this, and I gotta be honest though, I think that there's a little truth in both their stories, and I think that Donna was more involved and that she was very jealous that Nannette was flirting with Michael. Well, that's just my opinion. But anyway, the defense ended up calling an ex-boyfriend of Donna's to testify at trial to strengthen their argument that Donna was a jealous person and that she was capable of doing this. And this was one of her exes named Robert. And Robert said that the two had dated for a while, like a couple of years, and that when they dated, Donna was a very jealous, very possessive, very unstable woman. He told the court that on one occasion, he had come home and just casually mentioned to Donna that one of his female coworkers had gotten a haircut. Not that he liked it, nothing about it, but the fact that he noticed, okay, how dare he, put her into a rage. And she started to flip out and lose it. And he, not knowing how to handle the situation, called her mother to ask for advice. And when he did that, that was a big no-no, and she flipped on him and pulled a knife on him before taking that knife, stabbing herself, and needing to be hospitalized for the wound. Now, if that's all true, that sounds like a very, very unstable woman. I will say that. So to speak more to Donna's mental state, because I do think it matters, because spoiler alert, I think Michael did it, but I also think that Donna did it. That's just my opinion. Okay, so to speak more to her mental state, when she was asked on the stand, why was Nannette killed? Why was Nannette murdered? She said, and I quote, "It was her destiny." That is a weird thing to say. Okay, that is a weird thing to say. After a week of deliberations, the jury was sent to deliberate, and after a week of deliberations, Michael Lee was found guilty of the first-degree murder, and he was given life in prison. And he was also given an additional 70 years in prison due to the brutality of the murder. At Michael's sentencing hearing, Nannette's mother, Barbara, read her victim impact statement. And in this impact statement, it included poetry that was written by Nannette's daughter, one of Nannette's daughters. And oh my God, I could not find what this impact statement was, but just the thought of a little girl writing poetry about her murdered mother makes my heart ache. It's like too much for me to even. I'm glad that I didn't read it. Like, I'd love to read it to you, but I'm also glad I didn't, because I don't need to be crying today. But apparently Michael tried to have this poetry portion excluded from the victim impact statement because he thought it would prejudice him and get him like a longer sentence. And to that I say, like, fuck this guy. Right? Like, what a dick. Like, shut up. Shut up, Michael Lee, you dick. Michael did try to appeal his conviction, as they typically do. And in this appeal, he was saying that it wasn't him who killed Nannette, that it was actually his wife. And he did present some evidence that did make Donna look guilty, like certain letters that she had written to him while he was in prison. And she had sent him a Valentine's Day card. And in this Valentine's Day card, she said something that was a little bit weird. She said to Michael in this card, and I quote, "Thank you for my freedom. I should show you my appreciation more often." In another letter, she wrote to him, and I quote, "I am sorry for the pain that I caused you. I do appreciate the freedom and opportunities you have made available to me. At times, I truly do not know how I am to deal with all of this." Donna was asked by authorities if she wrote these letters, because that is a weird thing to say, especially if you didn't do anything. What are you thanking him for, lady? Why are you thanking him for your freedom? If you didn't do anything, you would just be free, right? And she agreed that she did write these letters, and she explained herself saying, and I quote, "I thanked him for allowing me the opportunities that I had at that time because I felt I could help him. I haven't been there beside him for the last 3 years, but there were plenty of times that I did what he needed and provided some of the things he wanted. And I apologize because I should have been stronger in our relationship and done more to prevent this." I don't know if that's really an explanation. It still seems weird to me. In the end, the appellate court denied his appeal, so he is in prison where he will be till at least 2030. He is up for parole in 2030, so 8 years. And at that time, he will be 60 years old. And now, to wrap up this video, I want to leave you with a quote from Nannette's daughter. A tearful quote that she read as an adult to her mother. And this quote was, and I quote, this quote was, and I quote, "Mom, I miss you. I miss the security, knowing that I was always protected by you no matter what. That I knew you'd always be there." And with that heartbreaking quote, that, my friends, is the story of the murder of 31-year-old Nannette Krenzel. Isn't that just so sad, dude? I cannot even imagine, dude. There's so many points in the story that I just want to stop her. I just want to grab her. Oh my gosh, I almost... Help. At the point where she goes to walk down that alley alone, I just want to grab her and I want to look at her and I want to be like, just go home. Right? Don't go to the other bar. Go home. It'll be fine. Sleep it off. I just want to stop her. I don't want to let her go to that second bar where she meets these fucking monsters. I also want to grab Jacob and be like, bro, I know you're pissed off, but go get her. Don't let your drunk partner walk off alone, because look at what happened. You know what I mean? Like, this could have been prevented. Like, it's nobody's fault except for the people who killed her, but it just sucks because it could have been prevented, and it wasn't. And then I think of all the times that I've done something just like this, not like gone home with anybody else, but I have been mad when I'm drunk because, like, sometimes I get to be an angry drunk. I don't drink really anymore, but I've been an angry drunk person who stormed off into the night and not been chased. And I just think of what could have happened, and that's a scary thing because I feel like it's one of those things that a lot of us have done. You know what I mean? Even if you're not angry, you're like, let's go on an adventure. Like, there's like this thing in you when you drink that makes you want to go. It makes you want to go and look at what could happen. And I just feel for Nannette, man, because I feel like she probably thought she was safe. She was like, I'm leaving with a couple. I'm not just leaving with some strange dude. I'm leaving with another woman. And I believe that that probably gave her a false sense of security because she thought that this woman would have her back and be there for her. It's just really sad. And I think that's kind of like the type of thing to take away from a case like this, is that it's not just like creepy dudes that you can't trust on the side of the road or that you meet. Like, you can't, it's sad, but like, you can't trust anyone, man. You gotta have your guard up. I tell everyone all the time, I'm like, listen, don't trust anyone. I remember one time I was walking down the street on my way home and there was this lady in a van and she was trying to call me over to her. She's talking, like, giving me a sob story about her and her kids and stuff. And I have the softest of hearts. When I see stuff like that, my husband has to walk between me and people because I will stop for everyone. But I wouldn't walk over to her van. She was trying to call me over and I was like, here's the thing. You might be calling me over so that a guy in the back of that van can reach out and grab me and pull me in. Like, these are the kinds of things that I think about. And these are the kinds of warnings that I give all the women in my life, like, just to be careful. And they can't trust other women either, man. It sucks, but it's just true. It's just a scary world out there, man. And I do think Donna was more involved, 100%. I do not buy at all that she got jealous that Nannette was hitting on Michael and just went to bed and then came out to find him standing over her. Like, I think she was 100% an active participant in this murder. I don't necessarily think that the couple went out that night looking for a woman to murder. I think they looked for a woman to bring home. But once she was back at the house, I think that they both killed her. And I think that he just took the responsibility for it. And I think when he appealed, he too was telling half-truths, because I don't think she did it 100% by herself either. I think that they both did it. I think that they both were 50-50 partners in murdering Nannette, and I think that she should be in jail for just as long as he is. That's what I think. But anyways, guys, that completes this video. I hope you found it interesting and informative, and it gave you all of the information you would want when looking into this case, because it's one worth remembering and learning from. And of course, I want to thank you for remembering Nannette Krenzel with me today. What happened to her is just so sad and so brutal, man. And I am glad to know that she wasn't tortured. What she went through was awful, but there is some sort of, there's nothing good about this, but it's better to know that most of the wounds that happened to her, I mean, she was stabbed 40 times, and that a lot of them did happen after death, so she wasn't tortured. That's something. It's not much, but I just can't imagine. I just can't imagine. The murder was still so violent. And she must have just been so scared. And she was like drunk and unable to defend herself, and it's just incredibly sad. That's it. Anyways, please let me know down below of any cases you would like to see me cover in the future. As you may know, I have a long list of cases, and whenever you add a case suggestion in the comments, I go ahead and add it to a list to hopefully look into. And if I get a chance to look into it, I like to give you a shout out in the videos, because I know you're filled with good ideas and good taste. Otherwise, you would not be here. If you haven't already, please don't forget to join the Brat Pack by subscribing and ringing that bell, because I put out a new video every week and I would love to hang out with you. Yes, you, specifically you. And if you want to hang out more consistently, you can follow me on all my social media. I have it all listed down below. I have an Instagram, a Twitter, a Facebook page, and a Facebook group. You will also find a list of all the makeup that I used on my face, nail polish, jewelry, Ana Luisa Jewelry, and a link to my merch store in case you want to get a t-shirt, because I got some pretty sick t-shirts on there. I come up with the ideas with my husband and he designs them for me. We are a collaborative effort, so if you like a family job, what is it? I'm 9 months pregnant. My brain is not working. But anyway, it's linked down there for your convenience. I want to say one more thank you to Ana Luisa Jewelry for partnering with me on today's video. I'm so excited that we finally got to work together. And if you guys want to take advantage of the Mother's Day sale, please make sure to click the link down in my description box so that lets Ana Luisa know that I'm the one who sent you, and you could take advantage of the buy one, get one 40% off sale today to get your mom something new that she will love and feel very special for you thinking of her for. That was a good sentence. And now with all of that said, I just want to thank you for being here when you could literally be anywhere else in the world. That is tight. You are tight. Please stay safe and be a better person than you were yesterday, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.